Nnamdi Kanu lawyers threatens boycott to court over alleged injustice. Remain hopeful in my government, Tinubu tells Nigerians on Eid al-Fitr. Suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs of Nigeria, Betta Edu, to sue the British Broadcasting Corporation over what she alleges is defamation. Let's check out stories outside Nigeria. Tonight, Liberia's Senate approves war crimes court's creation. Zambia uncovers sophisticated Chinese cybercrime syndicate. Those are the headlines we're monitoring tonight. But on Politics HQ, tensions rise as former Nigerian Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar clashes with the Nigerian federal government over the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project. Stay tuned as we delve into this controversial issue and discuss this critical infrastructure development. Also tonight, tension mounts as former Kano State Governor and National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Abdullahi Ganduje, faces an impending arraignment before a Kano State High Court on bribery charges. We'll look at that tonight as well. I'm Kofi Bartels. Politics HQ starts now. Former Nigerian Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has criticized the Nigerian federal government over the 700-kilometer Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road project. He's faulting the awarding of the project to Hitech Construction Company Limited, which is linked to a gentleman known as Gilbert Chagoury, who is a known confidant of President Bola Tinubu, allegedly, I must insist, without any record of competitive bidding or decision of the Federal Executive Council. If you remember, Gilbert Chagoury, if the name is ringing a bell, one of those who initially was said to have been on the list of the president's entourage to COP38 in Dubai as a confidant of the president. Well, according to the former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku, the Minister of Works, David Umahi, stated, quote, "Let me announce that this is under public-private partnership. The Hitech Group are going to look for the money. They have already found the money." I repeat, the Hitech Group are going to look for the money. They have already found the money. And that is the good news, because we don't waste our time talking and holding meetings and wasting resources, end of quote. Umahi continued, as quoted by Atiku, quote, "Because the project did not require public funds, it did not go through approval from the National Assembly, which holds the power of appropriation. Also, the project only went through the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission with no record of competitive bidding, since Chagoury's firm was to fund the project 100%, end of quote." That's Atiku's statement. Now, Atiku continues, quote, "However, to the shock of many Nigerians, Umahi returned to the Federal Executive Council with a memo in March 2024 seeking the approval of 1.06 trillion naira that would be paid to Chagoury's firm for the first phase of the project, which is wholly in Lagos." End of quote. Atiku's statement there. Now, what is the federal government saying? In his response, the man you're seeing on your screen, Works Minister David Umahi, described Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's statement as unfortunate, saying the ex-vice president lacked an understanding of the figures. And he also said that he will make the cost of the project public for Nigerians to know. Now, the exchange between Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Nigeria's opposition leader, and the Nigerian federal government has sparked debate across the country over this issue. Stakeholders are expressing divergent views on the matter. While some support Atiku's criticism as a call for accountability and transparency in project execution, others defend the government efforts and urge for constructive engagement to address the challenges. We'll look at this tonight. Joining us for more analysis, Sam Kargbo is a senior advocate of Nigeria. He joins us via video link. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you very kindly for your time tonight. Kargbo is a senior. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you very kindly for your time tonight. Now, let's start by asking where you stand on the allegations of lack of accountability, made by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar as regards this Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road project? Sir.
Made by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. It will be difficult for me to take a stand on the issue because it's an issue that has to do with the facts. It will be difficult for me to take a stand. You don't just wake up and say you want to build a road for and on behalf of Nigeria. No, that would be good if you are gifting Nigeria the road. But if indeed public funds are involved, and if indeed you are doing it either as a contractor or in the form of a public-private partnership, in all of this, there is a procurement process that you are bound to comply with. And the offices that are regulating this and overseeing this are there. You have talked about the Infrastructure Concession Commission, right? That is its own domain. If indeed the issue is that of public-private partnership. And of course, the procurement office is there to ensure that the federal government and any of its own agencies, and in particular this time around we are talking about the Ministry of Works, complies with the procurement process. So these are things and issues and facts that those who are actually expressing concerns about accountability, due process compliance, would need to follow up with the relevant offices. It is good that you raise these issues because in any case, it is of concern to everybody. But there is also the need for you to go beyond just raising the dust over this thing. And let me digress. The roads that you see, the Abuja Airport Road and the Asokoro Kubwa Zubwa Road, when these roads were on the table, there were so many discussions, so many slants, so many insinuations, and so many experts came on board telling the public all sorts of stories. To the extent that some people said, oh, they were building bridges where there were no waters, they were building bridges where there were no rivers, and all of that. And I was senior special assistant to the minister at that time. And I was in charge of the legal affairs of the FCT. I was concerned. I went to discuss with the executive secretary. The executive secretary said, hey, I think we all know you to be a brilliant lawyer. You've been good in assisting your boss. But please, this is not within your domain. This is for us. And anybody who is concerned and anybody who is actually interested in helping the public knows where to go to and what to look for. They said, don't be dissuaded. Don't be concerned about public criticism. That is their job.
Okay, Mr. Kargbo. Mr. Kargbo. Are you saying
help your boss to get through this?
Yeah, Mr. Kargbo, can you hear me, sir?
The project is there. Everybody is passing through that road, and everybody, those of you who know Abuja before that road, you know what that road has actually done.
Some Kargbo, can you hear me? And, I don't know if you can hear me.
When they say we are third world, part of it, and the part of it is what? We are lacking behind the infrastructure. Definitely, Nigeria would need to spend in the next 10 years, billions and billions of dollars for it to go halfway, meeting the infrastructural needs of this country. If indeed there are private people who want to come to assist the government, and if indeed they are genuine, And if indeed they are not going to actually hide behind that to fleece the government, hey, let's give the government a happy hand. Because in any way,
Kargbo, can you hear me?
Really one of what? The campaign promises of Mr. President, that his government was actually going to what? Invest on infrastructure. If indeed that road, 700 kilometers, somebody is beating his chest to say that we are going to do that within the time they had actually given to themselves, I would think that beyond this public standing with respect to whoever is making that, let us go beyond the facade. Let's look at the thing the way we should look at it. I would be so much interested to see somebody coming up with public document, actually giving the public how the procurement process was done, and through that we would see whether there was due process compliance, and if indeed there was none, what needs to be done. Of course, I agree. We have problems with what? Our regulators not doing their job. We have problems with what? Those who are auditing public officers, public institutions, public agencies are also failing us. That is why government is actually not delivering development. But this time around, you have somebody who say, hey.
Okay, Kargbo, can you hear me, please? Yes, I've been trying to get to ask you some questions. Can you hear me, Mr. Kargbo?
Turning the corner on things that we had thought that were impossible. How many of us?
All right, we will go for a quick break. And when we return, of course, we will hope to get Mr. Kargbo, Sam Kargbo, to answer some more questions right here on Politics HQ. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We still have with us a lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Sam Kargbo, who, of course, is giving his take on the allegations raised by former Nigerian Vice President and former presidential candidate of the opposition People's Democratic Party in the 2023 presidential elections, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, with regards to a federal government project, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road, an amount of 1.06 trillion naira said to be spent on that road for the first phase, which is the pilot phase of 47 kilometers. Mr. Kargbo, you were saying that the public should be given documents by anyone who is making such allegations. But it could be argued that the burden of proof right now, or the federal government, ought to come out and clear the air. Now these allegations have been made. This is the government we're talking about, which is there to serve the people. Atiku has, made some allegations. He's talked about the process of awarding the contract. He's talked about the cost of the project, and he has challenged the federal government to reveal the cost of this project. So shouldn't it be the federal government, through the Minister of Works and the Minister of Finance, coming out to say, these are the numbers? Sir.
I agree with you. In the court of public opinion, the principles are reversed. Usually, as a lawyer, what I know is that he who alleges should prove. But of course, here we are talking about the public. The public has been alerted about a project that somebody believed that the government cut corners in the procurement process. I think and I believe that the federal government would not ignore that. It's not just enough to brush aside the former vice president as an irritant. Even if he is, sorry to say the word, he has put on the burner issues that the public should be educated on. So I am hopeful that in no distant time, the federal government or whoever is involved, especially the Minister of Works, would come on board to educate the public as to how that project came about and the financing and how the contractor or whoever, or in whatever capacity he's coming in to build the road, how he got that. Like I said, even if you are gifting Nigeria, say 99% of it, that 1% of that money that is going in there is public money. And those who are giving it that money are accountable to the public, and the public should be educated on that.
What's your view, Mr. Kargbo, of the allegations of a conflict of interest, particularly with the choice of contractor? Gilbert Chagoury is a known confidant of President Bola Tinubu. If you check the list of the president's delegation to COP38, he was set to have been listed as a confidant of the president. As a lawyer, you're a senior advocate of Nigeria. Is there a conflict of interest here?
Well, you see, conflict of interest is not cast on stone to say, or like a thing. If you are calling me Sam Kargbo, that is my name. It's a name that I cannot change that easily. Tinubu, for his history and for who he is, if there is hardly anybody out there of substance that is not connected to him one way or the other. If we go that route, then there will be no Nigerian out there that would perform or engage in any government contract. Name them from Dangote to whoever. You would rule them out. To me, the issues of conflict of interest are secondary to the core issues. The procurement process, the ability to deliver, and the trust issues that are involved here. If somebody says, oh, he has the money and he is ready to deliver, let him be the brother of the president. To me, I do not care. What we should actually be focused on is on the project. And
are you saying that if the president, Sam Kargbo SAN, are you saying if a president gives his blood brother, biological brother, a government contract, as far as you're concerned, there is no conflict of interest there?
No, I'm exaggerating that. Of course, the EFCC will come after you if you do that. But what I'm saying, let me come back to the point. I am saying Tinubu, for who he is and his history as a businessman, there is hardly anybody out there of substance that is not connected to him.
Okay. But Sam Kargbo, sorry to interject, sir. Sorry to interject. Yes. This is not just anyone we're talking about.
Yes.
I want to read an article to you from the Cable. This is from December 3, 2023. This is what it says. The headline, Gilbert Chagoury listed as Tinubu's confidant in Nigeria's delegation to COP28. So if he was listed, according to this paper, as a confidant in the list published by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that he was named as a confidant of the president. Sir, this is not just a mere businessman who is an acquaintance.
You see, what is the substance of that confidence? You see, sometimes people play with the word to actually highlight some mischief. When you say confidant, anybody could be anybody's confidant. But what the lawyer is talking about, he shouldn't be in a position in which there is that likelihood that you would influence or you would be what? Advantage. You'll be leveraged by virtue of your relationship with the person. What am I saying here? Tinubu is a businessman. Every other business person out there knows him. And if he does, he becomes a confidant. But the procurement process would go beyond him because what? The government has its own institutions that what? Handle this process. Tinubu is not going to be part of the procurement process. The issue of whether or not the contract will be given would come at the tail end when the person who initiated would have come to work.
Sam Kargbo, sorry to interject here. I'm sorry to interject here. If you're saying that, a confidant, could be anybody, but I want to look at the fifth schedule of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, which you are very familiar with. And part one of the fifth schedule talks about code of conduct for public officers. And it says, and I quote,
Yes.
Subsection 1. It says, a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts with his duties and responsibilities, So if you're saying that a confidant of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria can be given a government contract, is that not going against the code of conduct for public officers as enshrined in the Constitution? You're a lawyer, so I want you to put your legal cap or answer as Sam Kargbo, the lawyer.
Definitely, I'm blinking. That's the cap I'm wearing. If you called me tomorrow, Tinubu's confidant in your article, does that make me his confidant? And assuming indeed it's somebody that I have his phone number that I can call, what does that relate to? How would you explain it in the context of the literature you've read there? If we go by your own definition, Dangote would do a job for Nigeria. Boa will not do a job for Nigeria. That's the point I'm saying. When I say a confidant, and it's a characterization. Somebody sat some with his pen and say, that person is confident.
No, sir. It was on the UN website. Those who went to register, the government said to have listed it on the UN web as okay, who are you? You're a minister. Who are you? That's what they put up. The government put up there.
Can I tell you about international delegations or presidential delegations? When the president is going for official visit, especially for every president, once you come into office, you are entitled to one official visit to any country. One official visit. Thereafter, during your tenure, is going to be your own private visit. When you are going, you are enjoined or encouraged to go with business partners, those that you know from within the private community that would be attractive to or be attracted by other businessmen where you are visiting. All of those people that you are going in with fall within that category of confidence. You could even say business friends of Mr. President. That is a diplomatic language for that purpose. It does not go beyond that to say, this person is such a chubby friend of Mr. President that, hey, whatever he wants from the government, he can get it within the snap of his finger. No. That's the point I'm saying. Of course, if I am his brother, if I am his uncle, if I am his nephew, that bloodline definitely would mean that whatever I benefit, he benefits, because my progress is his own progress. The progress of his wife is his own progress. The progress of his brother is his own progress. So he should not in any way put himself in a kind of a situation whereby I, as his brother, would use that relationship in order to benefit.
What about friend? What about friend? What about business associate?
Every president. I wish you have an idea about how government works. Every president that does not have business friends has no business to be in office.
Okay.
Because you have to use that to leverage support for your government and your policies. If you do not have that link, that connection to the core sector of the private community to leverage your own governance system, you have no business.
But is that not where we have the conflict between personal interest and national interest?
No.
Because now you're talking about personal interest.
Personal interest imputes some form of criminality. Let's put that aside and talk about how government works and how it should work. A serious government official, a serious president, has the duty to win friends for the government. Because what? He needs to will through his policies.
But I'm talking about personal friends, not friends for the government, personal friends. So is that not a conflict of interest? Because there's a clash between national interest and personal interest where you have a friend.
Yeah. Well, let's draw the line now. Let's have some definitions so that we know where we are. When you say personal friends, you are saying that Chagoury is what? Characterize him in your own words.
The president put out. I want to show you. I want to put this out, sir. Mr. President, in January 2024, wished Chagoury happy birthday. He put out a personal statement to him. He said that he congratulated him on his birthday. Said that I want to quote him now. Just give me a second, sir. He said, with friends like him, one can sleep with a still mind. So the president said, with friends like him, one can sleep with a still mind.
That's a serious-minded president. It should even be given them dinners. If you watch the way the United States presidency works, you see him going out of his ways to ensure that he curry favors and he draws nearer all the people that are of economic value. That is why they have dinner for them. Because he needs their own support. It is that support that he is leveraging for him to win their support for his policies. Here is somebody who says I am going to invest and improve on the public infrastructure. The government does not have that money. You and I know that. Because like I said, even if you put all of government's budget on infrastructure, the next 10 years, you won't go halfway.
Okay.
Gap.
Okay.
What do you need to do? Win anybody who is out there that you know. Look at what Dangote has done for Lagos. And look at what Dangote has been doing for other roads. He built to say, listen now, I'm going to build this one against my tax.
Okay, so you're saying if a president gives, you're saying if a government or an administration gives contracts to the friends of the president, there is no conflict of interest there. Let's go for a commercial break. Sir, let's go for a commercial break. We'll be right back and then we'll ask you some more questions. For those of you watching, it's still Politics HQ. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We still have with us lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Sam Kargbo, as we look at some allegations made by Nigeria's former Vice President Atiku Abubakar regarding the 700-kilometer Lagos-Calabar coastal road project. Sam Kargbo, SAN, what are your thoughts on the confusion regarding the source of funding for this project? Because Minister David Umahi said, and I quote, let me announce that it is under public-private partnership. The Hitech Group are going to look for the money. They have already found the money. Those two sentences are a bit confusing. What do you think? Where do you think the money is coming from?
You see, if it is under that, then obviously the Regulatory Commission has to be involved 100%. Let me explain here and get back to the Abuja roads that you are seeing. The way it was conceptualized was for the government to put in 40% through the debt management office, and the private partner who was to take any lot was to take 60% and recover their money through tolling. That was the idea, the original idea. You build and operate. You get your money through tolling. But I don't know how it was ended because we are only about 90% down the road when we left government. But The danger in also this public private partnership is that they are fanciful sometimes. They come in very beautiful, but they say the devil also wears a Prada. So you have to be very, very critical, because sometimes you could be buying what? A Greek gift. And that is why I said whoever is interested, and we should all be interested. And luckily, there is a law that forces the hands of all those who are involved to give us not just their words, but documents. You understand? For us to actually see the project as it is, both in terms of what? Its own conceptualization and the money. Because what? The public has to follow the money, its own money. Even if what is to go in there is only about 10% or 20%, that 20% has options or has alternatives in the midst of what? The myriad wants of the Nigerian. So that was why I said I am hopeful that very soon those who are involved, the stakeholders, would come to the public and actually account, because what? They owe that to the public. They owe that to the public.
All right.
But let us also get back to this. Let's don't frighten those who are coming in genuinely to help, because most countries, I have gone to Swaziland, when we are conceptualizing this to see how they got through their public-private partnership. Almost 90% of their infrastructure utilities, what do you call it, are all what?
All right.
Concessions.
Okay.
But they have what? World-class standards. Go to South Africa, those end roads are not free. They're all what? Gotten through.
All right, we have to go. We have to go. Yeah, Sam Kargbo, you've said it all. The question still remains, is the federal government going to pay for this project? Because we hear FEC was given a memo seeking approval of 1.06 trillion naira to be paid to Chagoury's firm, according to Atiku Abubakar. Or is he actually funding the project, which Umahi said he has already found the money for? That's the question that needs to be answered. But I want to thank you very much for your time tonight, sir, and for sharing your thoughts with us on this very important subject.
Very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sam Kargbo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. When we return, we will be driving straight over to Kano State, where the former State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje is set to be arraigned before the State High Court on bribery charges. We'll be right back. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. Former Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje is set to be arraigned on bribery charges before a Kano State High Court following an investigation by the state's anti-corruption agency. The charges stem from allegations of financial impropriety and corrupt practices leveled against the governor, or the former governor. According to reports, Ganduje is accused of accepting bribes totaling millions of naira, or we can say thousands of US dollars, from contractors working on various government projects in the state. The allegations surfaced in a series of videos, particularly those published by the Daily Nigerian. Remember that episode in 2018-2019 that purportedly showed the governor receiving cash payments in exchange for awarding lucrative contracts. That's the so-called Gandola episode you can see on your screen. We must point out that the governor always maintained, the then governor, that the video by the Daily Nigerian was doctored. The impending arraignment of the former governor has sparked, widespread, public interest and raised questions about the state of governance in the country and, of course, the state of accountability in Nigeria. Is this a political witch hunt? You would ask. Is this a genuine attempt to fight corruption in Kano State. We're joined by a guest tonight who joins us via video link. He's a legal practitioner. Evans Ofele, good evening to you.
Good evening.
All right, good to see you, Evans. Let's start from this. Witch hunt or genuine attempt at tackling corruption in Kano State?
Now, this is no witch hunt. I mean, there was a video evidence to the effect that he collected feedback in dollars from contractors, and the video was all over the place. So it is in the interest of the state and interest of the fight against corruption to ensure that every criminal act, every suspect must be prosecuted. This is the only way we can change this country. If people are allowed to get away with criminal acts, or suspects are allowed to go away just like that, I mean, you are going to have a lot of problems in the future. It is within the jurisdiction of the state to so prosecute him. The offense was committed in the state. The state have jurisdiction to prosecute him. And the time does not run against the state, criminal prosecution. It is only in civil cases where, for example, defamation, if you don't bring an action within 6 years, in case of defamation, you cannot have that case litigated again. But for criminal prosecution, even after 100 years, 200 years, you can still be prosecuted. So time does not run against the state in criminal prosecution. And I think it is the right thing to do. Let the state prosecute him, his conspirators and accomplices to all face the law.
Okay. Evans, before we go on to issue of jurisdiction, on the issue of witch hunt or general attempt, it is well known that Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State is a political ally of a former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, who is the leader of the NNPP, a party to which he belongs. And it's well documented the series of moves made by Abba Yusuf aimed at, going after Ganduje, if you want to say that. Is it reversal of policies, revelations of misappropriation and, wrongdoing by the previous administration of Ganduje. So I want you to address this issue again. Are you sure that this is not a political game at play? I'm not saying Ganduje may or may not be guilty or he should not be tried. But the motive, what is the motive here as far as you're concerned?
Well, assuming but not conceding that it's about politics and, witch hunting or whatever it is, assuming but not conceding. The truth is that the state still have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, okay? So the window of doubt is still there. I mean, the funds, he received them, he collected them, we saw it in the video. But that video is not enough. The state must go further to establish that those funds were proceeds of crime, that they came as a result of bribery, because the allegation is actually bribery and all that. So I would not say that it is political witch hunting or that, but I will not also say it's not. What I would say is that upon reasonable suspicion that a person, any person, whether governor, past governor, any person, when there's a reasonable suspicion, offense has been committed. Whether it has political undertone or it is just the way it is, or that you read any meaning you wish to read into it. One thing we must get clear is that the prosecution, he that alleges must prove. The fact that the state is alleging that he committed an offense does not mean the state will get to court and prove their case. They may or they may not. Okay, so definitely we all know that politicians have a lot of baggages. They have a lot of issues within themselves, and they use the available power within their control to fight back and to do all sorts. But the truth is that we are talking about $413,000 here, which is translated into 1.something billion and all that. So these funds belongs to the state, belongs to the people of Kano, okay? So even if the state is not willing to prosecute, the people can also take an action against their former governor for that very video we saw where he was
all right. Okay, we'll be back to ask you some more questions after this break. Please stay with us. For those of you watching at home, we'll be right back. All right, let's continue our conversation with Ivan Sofeli, legal practitioner, regarding the impending arraignment of former governor Abdullahi Ganduje, who himself is also currently the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Nigeria's ruling party, on charges of bribery at the Kano State High Court. Ivan Sofeli, let's talk about the issue of jurisdiction that you raised earlier. Sometime this month, or rather last month, March 2024, a federal high court sitting in Kano ruled that the Kano State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission lacks the power, to investigate the former governor. They're saying that such a crime is a federal crime that should be looked into by the EFCC and the CCB, not the Kano State government or its agencies.
Well, there's a sense in which that statement may not be totally false, saying that it is economic crime. Actually, it is financial and economic crime. Okay, but when the EFCC had not undertaken or not made any move to prosecute him, what happens? The state should make an attempt. It's not entirely true also that the state have no jurisdiction whatsoever. You understand? Because upon that issue, he could not be arrested at that time because of the fact that he has the immunity, okay, and as such, no one could have contemplated arresting and prosecuting him, because that would have been him running against the tide, against the law. Okay, but now the state is making an attempt to do so. If there is any court order whatsoever that is saying the state cannot do so, and if that is actually confirmed, I, in my estimation, think the state can do so, because the Kano State, they have the penal code which regulates the criminal activities in the north, and the state also have their own domesticated criminal laws of Kano State.
Yes, because of time, I want to draw your attention quickly to an example in Rivers State, where when Nyesom Wike assumed office as governor, he formed a panel of inquiry. I think it's a judicial panel of inquiry, if I'm not mistaken, to probe sort of a petition alleging financial misappropriation against his predecessor. When they concluded, they presented their report. That report was forwarded to the EFCC. So, would you say the Kano State government should rather follow that template, seeing that we have a standing court order from just last month, ruling that, that a judgment, let's say, that says they can't investigate or prosecute the man?
That is not that ruling should be appealed, because it does not conform to the principles of law. There's the criminal laws of Kano State, okay, and the criminal law have provisions for such an offense as bribery, and the state can come under that law to make that prosecution. So if the court of first instance have ruled that they cannot do that, that should be appealed. I do not believe so. Both the EFCC and the state can actually prosecute. The EFCC, if the state do a petition to the EFCC and ask that he be investigated and prosecuted, that's one way. Another way is for the state to rely on the criminal laws of that state, wherein you have provisions as bribery and theft and all that, which is in the law. So I don't think that is right. So that judgment should be appealed. Once it is appealed, they will find grounds upon which a state can prosecute. Every state has a criminal law, and that criminal law is a domestication of the penal code in the north, and in the southern part of the country, the domestication of the criminal code. Every state has it. So that of Lagos State is there. Bribery is an offense under that law. And the Kano State also have the penal code domesticated as the criminal laws of Kano State, where bribery is also an offense. So once there's a law in a state that states that an act is an offense and prescribe the punishment thereof, that state have capacity to prosecute under that section of the law. So it should be appealed. There's no foreseeable end in law. And that is what we are taught. So the fact that there's a pending ruling or judgment that the state cannot prosecute does not mean I should agree to that. If I was the Attorney General of that state, I will appeal that. and bring the criminal laws of the state of.
Okay, Evans, before you go, I don't know if you can hear me. I think there's an appeal already on. But finally, what's your take on...
There must be an appeal. There's no way there will not be an appeal.
This judgment. Anyway, we don't know if that appeal has been filed, but that's what the counsel to the first respondent, the State Public and Anti-Corruption Commission said. But finally, your thoughts on the fact that the EFCC has already investigated that video, the allegations of bribery against Ganduje, and they have a report which Governor Obasanjo is asking the EFCC to make public. Now, should the government stay action, and allow EFCC the opportunity to avail them of the contents of that, or the findings of that probe that they conducted?
No, the state should go ahead. The state should go ahead with the prosecution. Once they go ahead with the prosecution, then EFCC can be subpoenaed. There will be a subpoena from the court to compel EFCC to bring whatever document they have to that effect. It's a proper proceeding of law. The EFCC cannot refuse to bring evidence when there is a suspect or a defendant being prosecuted. Okay, so it is the law. They don't need to. If they can decide to reach out to EFCC first, because usually the truth is that you make an attempt to get a piece of evidence. If you find out that the adverse party who is with the piece of evidence is unwilling to avail you that piece of evidence, you can go ahead with prosecution. But then you ask the court to subpoena the institution or the body under reference. So you can also bring an action against that particular institution to act or do what it ought to do by law.
All right.
So there's nothing that is shady here. The EFCC will act accordingly.
All right. All right. Quite interesting legal analysis or legal angle from you, Ivan Sofeli. It's been a pleasure having you tonight. Thank you very much. And that's the size of a package on Politics HQ. We rest assured we'll return tomorrow with the latest conversations on the big stories in the politics of Nigeria. I'm Kofi Bartels. Good night.